All right, planning board, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
Thank you, LTV. Good evening. Today is December 17th, and this is the East Hampton Town Planning Board regular and work session meeting for today. I just want to say at the outset that the application for 350 Pantago is not on tonight's agenda, so if anyone here is here for that, it is not on. That being said, we do have a pretty full docket today. We have a public hearing for St. Michael's. We have 7 items on for work session, 3 for regular meeting, and 1 board of review. So that being said, I'd like to start with the public hearing for St. Michael's. And do I read this in first? I will be asking this till the day I die.
It was properly noticed, so.
Probably, okay,
Yes.
thank you. It was properly noticed. And then do I read the notice and then Will goes, or Will goes first?
Say what the notice says and then.
Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the East Hampton Town Planning Board on December 17th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The application is the St. Michael's Basement Alteration Site Plan. It is a 233,477 square foot, 5.36 acre property located at 207. No, it's not. Acabonic Road? No, St. Michael's. I'm sorry, I think this is the incorrect. Let's see.
The address is wrong.
The address is wrong.
The address is wrong.
Yep.
Will, do you have by any chance the address for? Oh, Eric, I'm sorry, it's you.
I was going to say hang tight and I'll get you the right address, but
Okay,
you should
great.
have it for reading the notice, so just give me 1 second.
Sure.
But it was properly noticed with the right address?
Or was it, can we just double check, Brittany?
Yeah, let me.
Thank you.
The address is 488 Montauk Highway.
Thanks, Will.
Thanks, Will. Sure.
Oh my, yeah. That's not good.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Bless you.
I guess they wouldn't have this on the East Hampton Star website.
I don't think so.
Probably not. Yeah, it's a little too granular.
Does anyone have a copy of the Star? There's probably, do they have the Star out there, or is it
Just
the
the press.
Yeah. Paper of record.
Start.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, that's the paper of record.
I also learned today that all of us should have access to the application for the minutes of the meetings, the agenda. And I was told, so you know, the town clerk, for example, will log the minutes
Right.
into this
Oh, right, we
application
should have
called,
that.
yeah. And apparently we've had it for years. We just never have been told how to access it. or
We
why we
actually-
need to access it. I
I
don't know.
usually go back and look on the town website.
Right, that's the
Yeah.
website portion, but
Yeah.
there is the back end of that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if you're interested in that, call the IT department.
Okay. Also, I signed up for the SECRA seminar the other night on Monday night. Caitlin sent around.
For what?
There was a SECRA, basics, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Those are good. I found those. Remember we had the whole.
We had one.
Yeah.
In the new
Last
year,
year.
it was right when I was.
Refresher
asked
is
to be on
good.
the board, but I was
It
gone
was,
away.
I think it was
November.
in December, because it was when my mom passed away. Yeah. Inaccurate. Next meeting, January 14th, okay. Okay, thanks, everybody, for waiting. As it turns out, the applicant properly noticed the neighbors, but the address listed in the paper of record, the East Hampton Star, is incorrect. So we are going to table this till the next meeting, and we will have it corrected in the East Hampton Star so that the public is aware. I'm so sorry about that. Thanks, Kathy. Okay, so moving on to our work session. The first item is 176 Town Lane subwaiver. Aaron, this is yours, and Ava, this is yours for us. And is the applicant here? Yes, great.
Hey, I know her.
Whenever you're ready.
An application has been made to subdivide an approximately 1.6 acre lot having frontage on Town Lane into two individual lots. The proposed lot is the first proposed lot is approximately 45,300 square feet, labeled Lot 1. And the second proposed lot is approximately 40,391 square feet, labeled Lot 2. The site is currently improved with an estimated 770 square foot one-story single-family residence, an attached deck, and an estimated 92 square foot detached shed, a sanitary system, and a dirt driveway. The project is listed as an unlisted action. Under SECRA, this project is listed as an unlisted action. Pursuant to SECRA and the Chapter 128 of Town Code, it is recommended that the planning board request lead agency status for the project. And for access, the following recommendation. The recommendation of Town Code Section 220, 1.10 often requires common driveways and common access for all subdivisions unless this is not possible due to lot constraint or pre-existing conditions. The use of a common driveway maintains rural aesthetics, reduces need for clearing, and limits the number of traffic conflict points. The applicant is proposing a 20-foot wide access and a utility easement along the northeastern corridor of Lot 1 for the purpose of a common driveway. For the purpose of a common driveway. Okay, the dimensions that the applicant proposes of 20-foot wide access and improved roadway width of 14 feet meet the Town Code section of 223.02. However, the applicant has not provided a full common driveway plan with all information required in the section of Town Code. The current single-family residence located in the site is accessed through a dirt driveway. The proposed common driveway does not serve as an access to the current single-family lot, only the proposed single-family residence on Lot 2, based on Town Code Section 220, 1.04, to be considered a common driveway, a municipal ingress and egress, which is shared by two lots, which provides vehicular access to a public street or highway is required. As a result, the current proposed access easement would not be considered common. Abandonment of the current driveway, a revision to show Lot 1 access, or or revegetation of the area would be required. Additionally, it would be noted that the proposed driveway is currently proposed to be put on a private cleared path that leads to commercial property. However, this path is private, and as such, the common driveway being put in that location would eliminate the use of that path. However, the path is not known to be in any trail system and does not connect to any such trails. No emergency turnaround in the proposed application is present. Per section 223.02 in the town code, an emergency turnaround is required when a common driveway is present. Section 224.04 prohibits the planning board from having the ability to waive the emergency driveway requirement. And as such, once it is included, it will most likely require some kind of subdivision lot reconfiguration in order to meet the minimum lot area requirements. The planning department recommends the application to be revised so a common driveway with mutual ingress and egress shared between the two lots is proposed. A common driveway is included, an emergency turnaround is included, an abandonment of the current driveway with revegetation is included. For the dimensional regulations, the residence is located in zoning district A, where the lot sizes are 40,000 square foot with a minimum lot width of 160 feet. In this calculation, access easements and emergency turnarounds cannot be included. Lot 1 is proposed to have a width of 208 feet of road frontage, with Lot 2 being set back behind Lot 1, having an approximate width of 270 square feet. Each proposed lot in the current state meets minimum lot requirements. Both proposed lots are as rectangular as feasibly possible. Once the emergency turnaround is included in the revised plan, it could cause the proposed lots to be below minimum lot size. As such, when a revised plan is submitted, the applicant is advised to ensure it meets all dimensional requirements. Regarding open space, Town Code Section 220.1.07H, regarding open space design standards for subdivisions of land states scenic easements along public roads should be provided by the applicant encompassing at least 10% of the total depth of the subject parcel. As stated in section 224.04 Town Code, the planning board may choose to waive this requirement if exceptional conditions of terrain or other factors impose undue hardship or practical difficulty, or if public safety and general welfare would not be endangered by the lack of easements. The planning board should discuss whether it wishes to require scenic easement along the roadway. The planning department review of on-site visit findings and aerial imagery shows large portions of the site to be wooded along the roadway. These wooded areas are currently providing natural scenic elements to the area. Accordingly, a scenic easement is recommended to be required. For other agencies, the applicant is advised additional approval for the project will be required from the Suffolk County Water Authority for approval of connections to existing infrastructure and for water service approval, as well as Suffolk County Department of Health Services for approval of the subwaiver. The proposed subwaiver is to be served by the public water supply that is located on Town Lane. The planning department finds this appropriate. The proposed subwaiver also depicts the location of the sanitary systems. The applicant is advised, as stated in Town Code sections 210.3.2B1 and 210.4.4, construction of new buildings on areas without existing sanitary systems to serve them require the installation of low nitrogen sanitary systems before any building permit is issued. The building department will require all sanitary system details. Title of plans, all plans submitted for this application, including but not limited to subdivision maps, roads, and drainage plans, and landscaping plans must be labeled with the title of the subdivision. This must be consistent with the title that the application was filed under unless an official request is made to modify the application name. The proposed map that was given to the planning department is map of Gary Jones, and the listed project title in the application is 176 Town Lane 2 lot subdivision. The planning department recommends the applicant revise this title, the title of the plans to be consistent with the listed project title. This application was referred to the Fire Marshal, David Brown, for review. On December 4th, 2025, the planning department received a report stating the following: submitted information is sufficient or not relevant to necessitate further review for fire protection purposes. The application was referred to the town consulting engineer for review. On December 9th, the planning department received a report stating the following comments: the boundary of the proposed access and utility easement in Lot 1 needs to be described by the bearings and distances with all information annotated on the map. The access and utility easement is annotated as a common driveway. It is not clear if the easement is designed to serve as a vehicular access for both lots. Currently, Lot 1 is being served by an existing driveway that would remain. This should be clarified and amended to state whether the existing driveway will remain. If it is to remain, the note common driveway needs to be removed. There are two drainage structures, leach and catch basin dry wells shown within the access and utility easement area. The depth of the structures is not specified. A separate driveway plan should be provided for the access easement that is consistent with the proposed design. Subdivision approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, Office of Water Management would be required for this project. On the final plot, all proposed structures, topography, and building envelopes will need to be removed and not shown. In conclusion, the application should submit a revised The applicant should submit a revised application with emergency turnaround and revised common driveway plan. The revision should ensure all town code requirements are met. The planning department advises the applicant to submit revised additional plans and response letter. The letter must respond to each item below, number by number, and identify how and where these comments are addressed. The questions for the planning board is, does the planning board agree to request lead agency status in this project? Does the planning board wish to request scenic easement along the roadway? Should the applicant revise applications for the common driveway to provide access to both lots and provide an emergency turnaround? Should the applicant amend the title of the plans to be compliant with town code?
Thank you, Karen. Does the applicant wish to speak? Come on up.
Push this.
Okay, good evening, Chairperson and board members. I'm Deborah Choron of Matthews, Kirst, Cooley, and Choron, here on behalf of Gary Jones, the owner of 176 Town Lane. Mr. Jones resides at the single-family residence on the 85,691 square foot lot. The purpose of this application is to subdivide this nearly 2-acre parcel to create a second residential lot with no variances and no protected natural features. At this time, it is not Mr. Jones's intention to renovate his residence or to develop the new lot. At this time, his goal is simply to create 2 conforming lots with as little disturbance as possible to the existing conditions where Mr. Jones resides and where all of the improvements already exist. So in other words, Mr. Jones is not in the position to undertake relocating structures, utilities, or driveways, or to undertake significant clearing, or to undertake revegetating large areas. So any one of those tasks would be costly and burdensome to Mr. Jones. So it is for those reasons that our application does not immediately offer the removal of Mr. Jones's existing driveway in favor of a common driveway. The notation for common driveway was accidental. It is meant to be just access for lot 2. So we do not specifically offer an easement along Town Lane at this time because that's where Mr. Jones's driveway is located now. So while we are always receptive to the feedback of the planning department and this board, I just wanted to open a dialogue and explain why we originally put this application the way that it is before this board, and have a dialogue about it. So with regard to having a common driveway, the technical analysis memorandum states that section 220-1.10 of the town code states it often requires common driveways and common access for all subdivisions unless that is not possible due to lot constraints or pre-existing conditions. While I understand that this has been how the planning department and planning board have perceived this section of the town code, it is not how section 220-1.10 of the code actually reads. It provides no enumerated criteria as to when a common driveway is required or is not required. Rather, the code vaguely states direct access from individual lots to existing state, county, or collector town roads shall not generally be allowed. The precise wording implies that the board has much more discretion than only considering lot constraints or pre-existing conditions, and I submit that the code intentionally left extra wiggle room for common sense by using this language, and also by including section 220-4.04, which gives this board even more discretion in its ability to vary or waive the provisions of chapter 220. So when it comes to the open space provision, the technical analysis memorandum also cites section 220-1-.07H of the code, which says, along public roads, residential subdivision plats shall provide reserved area or scenic easement area for at least 10% of the total depth of the subject parcel as a natural buffer from development. However, again, we have section 220-4.04, which gives the board discretion in waiving this requirement, where in its judgment, exceptional conditions of terrain or other factors impose undue hardship or practical difficulty, provided that the varying of such provisions can be done in such a way as to grant relief and at the same time protect the general interest. So it's really very broad in the board's discretion for these two things. So as we apply common sense, it's important to remember that this chapter applies to all subdivisions of all sizes and was written in a way so that this board would have flexibility to address different kinds of projects at vastly different scales. So while we review this project, I just ask that you keep in mind that this subdivision is of one residential lot into two residential lots that would both be conforming to size, again, with no variances and no protected natural features. So all of that being said, in keeping Mr. Jones's driveway and locating Lot 2's access along the eastern line, we specifically considered the lot constraints and pre-existing conditions as the technical analysis memorandum suggests that we should. We also considered, as we are entitled to consider under section 220-4.04, the undue hardship that Mr. Jones would have and the practical difficulties. So I just want to emphasize that I believe the board has more discretion when it comes to waiving the common driveway and open space provisions. So here we have an existing U-shaped dirt driveway, which is already directly in front of Mr. Jones's modest house that is already located very close to that western lot line. So it would not make any sense to squeeze a common driveway between the western lot line and Mr. Jones's house. And we obviously don't wish to cut a driveway in the middle of the property. Therefore, Lot 2's access is most natural along that eastern lot line. And this just feels like common sense. Following that train of thought, since Mr. Jones would need to clear a massive area containing trees and mature vegetation to take access off of that driveway along the eastern lot line to arrive at his house, that would impose an undue hardship and just a practical difficulty. So it's the strong preference for Mr. Jones to simply keep his existing dirt driveway. And moreover, allowing him to keep that driveway as opposed to creating a new driveway furthers the goals of this section of the code, which are to maintain rural aesthetics and reduce the need for clearing. So ultimately, the thought process as to the driveway design, which I just outlined, is what prevented us from being able to offer the scenic easement along the roadway, because Mr. Jones's driveway, which we wish to keep, is in the location where such an easement would typically be recommended. So in as much as the technical analysis memorandum notes that large portions of the site are wooded along the roadway and notes that the wooded areas are currently providing a natural scenic elements to the area, the existing driveway is clearly of no hindrance to this view shed as it exists right now. So I just appreciate this opportunity to explain our thought process behind those two items because they're obviously the biggest talking points of this application. And I know that Mr. Jones appreciates your time, as do I. And I'm here for any questions that you have. And I just appreciate this as night one of our first time on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you for the detail. So my question really is, I'm familiar with the location of the property, the dirt driveway that is there. It's right up against the road. For access to Lot 2, there still will need to be some type of driveway going back there, which will include clearing, and certainly that east side would make the most sense. While I'm certainly open to being, flexible on the common driveway aspect, there's still the matter of the emergency turnaround that's going to be required. So, while there may not be any planned development at the onset, I would presume respectfully that in due time there would be. So, we just had a similar application where there was an existing property and a planned, potential, it was a subdivision application, and it was condition of final approval when building plans for that second lot were to, be presented. I think we would need a little bit more detail with regards to that access to Lot 2 when a building plan would be submitted, including the emergency turnaround, which would probably then, in turn, include some additional vegetation that would need to be replaced, because obviously there would be some clearing involved with that access to Lot 2. And that's pretty much all my comments. Yeah, the other stuff is fairly technical. The title of the plans needs to be updated to match, obviously. Any other comments? That's probably my main point here.
I don't imagine the new driveway is going to be a dirt driveway, right?
Should I come back?
Yeah.
Yes, please, thanks.
So that's unknown to us at this time. So as far as the development of that, we can work with covenants that provide for the development of it in the future. If it's no longer a common driveway, I don't believe the emergency turnaround remains a requirement. I think naturally anybody who does have a driveway that's kind of like that flagpole is going to create a parking area that has sufficient space to turn around, but we can covenant that as part of the development on that second lot when it becomes developed as a requirement of the permitting process. Mr. Jones is not, it's not his intention to be constructing something. I believe his intention would be to sell. So if it, would be how it gets developed in the future, that would not be up to him. That would be for a permitting process in the future.
Thank you. Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like Ava said, we just had a project almost exactly like this, where we did make them take out their driveway and develop a common driveway. And I believe we had them re-veg as well. It was a smaller lot, so obviously the re-veg wasn't as much. But I think this is quite similar to,
Literally
almost exactly
identical.
similar to that.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your feedback, but I think I'd be in favor of the common driveway as well with re-veg.
I just think it would make the most sense personally, like you said, the intent is to sell that lot. So clearly the next intent once upon sale is to develop that lot, clearly. So I agree. I think the common driveway is really the most, the best way
My
to
question
accomplish
is, do we, as Deborah mentioned, do we have that leeway to waive the common driveway? The turnaround on the,
Not
Not the turnaround.
And we do not.
not the
But the
turnaround.
common driveway and the scenic easement, we do have
Yeah,
flexibility
that I-
on
that right.
flexibility, yeah.
So eventually they do need a turnaround. That's not something that we can waive.
Right.
So if there's a turnaround, I also appreciate the fact that there's going to be more clearing necessary if you have a common driveway. If you make that the eastern part of the property, if you have a common driveway with access to both lots. But then again, you also cut off 2 access points. You only have 1. So here you would have 3 basically.
Right.
So yeah, my inclination is to go with the comments of my colleagues that I think you need a common driveway with a turnaround.
And also, looking at this now with this new information in mind, if a common driveway is to occur, at the eastern end, it'd be so much further away than the current driveway is to this house. So I'm thinking that if it's a common driveway, it should be on the other side. It should be in the western portion of the property.
there's more available land on the eastern side.
On the eastern side?
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. I think I agree with all of my
long walk to the
colleagues,
house.
all of my colleagues here on the board. And I think what we also have to remember is, while I completely appreciate Mr. Jones's, the constraints he may have to do this now, we do have to look at the future. I think his house was built, I'm familiar with the house and the location as well. The building permit dates back to 1990, so that house at some point, that house will likely be renovated, redeveloped, probably made bigger. So in that instance, allowing for the common driveway, the common access now is really good planning for the future. That's how I feel too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Anybody, anything else? So we will move on to our questions. Does the planning board agree to request to be lead agency on this project? I think yes.
Yes.
We didn't really talk about the scenic easement, but I do think that if we are requiring the common driveway, then the scenic easement would, yeah. Does the planning board wish to request a scenic easement along the roadway?
Yes.
Should the applicant revise the application for the common driveway to provide access to both lots and provide an emergency vehicle turnaround? Yes.
Ideally.
And last but not least, should the applicant amend the title of the plans to be compliant with town code?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks very much. Okay. Next up, 9 South Ferncroft subwaiver. Aaron, that is you again. Thank you, Michael. Lou, that is you. Is the applicant here? Yes, hello. Go ahead, Aaron, whenever you're ready.
This application is for 9 South Ferncroft Place in Montauk, New York. It was last reviewed on March 19, 2025. For some background information on the application, an application has been submitted and seeking subdivision approval for a property located on South Ferncroft Place in Montauk. If granted approval, this project would create 2 new lots, both with a road frontage, one being 20,000 square feet, another being roughly 27,671 square feet. The subject parcel is currently 47,671 square feet, or about 1.094 acres, and is located within a B residence zoning district. The site is currently considered improved or partially cleared according to town records. Previously, the lot contained a 1-story single-family residence with garage, deck, and patio, although the structures appear to have been removed since early 2023. The lot is surrounded by residence lots. Lots also zoned B residence to the north, west, south, and while to the west is zoned as Park and Conservation District. Issues for discussion, the following the review of Planning Board on March 19, 2025. The Planning Board issued written comments to the applicant regarding several issues below, where a comment was made previously made by the Planning Board. It is underlined, and the applicant's response and Planning Board assessment of whether the response is acceptable is provided directly after. For the first comment was the applicant should submit a short environmental assessment form, part 1, as part of this application as an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Applicant's response was addressed. The applicant submitted a short environmental assessment form, part 1, for review. The Planning Board's assessment was the submitted short environmental assessment form, part 1, identified the potential presence of endangered species on the site. The Planning Department recommends the applicant comply with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation guidelines to protect potential populations of northern long-eared bats. These guidelines include avoiding clearing and doing forest management activities from March 31st through November 1st to avoid any harm that could happen unintentionally. Additionally, the report states that regulated water bodies or wetlands are present on the site. However, during the Planning Department subdivision waiver initial evaluation, it was found that no wetlands are within NRSP jurisdiction, and the parcel is set back more than 150 feet from any wetland or water body. The Planning Department recommends the Planning Board assume lead agency status for this project. Planning Board comment number 2, the applicant should submit a revised plan that depicts a common driveway. The applicant's response partially addressed. So the applicant submitted a response letter along with a couple plans. According to a couple plans, the planning board's assessment, there are 3 plans submitted for review. One plan depicted a common driveway with an emergency turnaround as required by 223.02 of town code. The secondary plan depicts a common driveway without an emergency turnaround. And the third plan was submitted on 12/9/2025 after a meeting with the applicant depicting separate individual driveways to have no requirement for a common driveway. The applicant is requesting the emergency turnaround requirement to be waived. However, after discussion, section 224.04 of the town code prohibits the planning board from having the ability to waive the emergency turnaround requirement, no matter if all stakeholders involved agree it is not necessary. It is noted that the fire marshal and engineer both stated they believe the emergency turnaround to not be necessary in this case. Additionally, the noted minimum lot size for the zoning district is 20,000 square feet. Based on 221.04, an emergency turnaround access easement cannot be included in the lot area. Once the access easement and emergency turnaround are included in the lot area calculation, the lot will be under the minimum lot size for both common driveway proposed plans. The proposed common driveway meets all code requirements except slope requirement as required by 223.04F. 2 of the town code, the maximum grade for driveway shall not exceed 12%. As it currently stands, portions of the planned driveway are to be installed on a slope of 15% to 35%, according to town GIS resources. Section 224.04 allows the planning board to vary the provisions of 220.3.02 F2. However, due to the high slope nature of the lot and use of the existing curb cut, we believe the proposed driveway is adequate. At the request of the applicant, the planning department met with the applicant to discuss the common driveway and emergency turnaround on the lot. The common driveway requirement was discussed, access to the lot, and potential solutions to the issue of access in the lot. After discussion, the planning department evaluated the situation and found a potential code change is advisable to allow the planning board to have the ability to waive the emergency turnaround requirement in situations where all appropriate stakeholders believe it serves no benefit and prevents parcel owners from subdividing or developing their lot. The applicant was advised that the potential code change is just being considered now, and that the time label to make such a change, should it be desired, is unknown. In response to the discussion, the common driveway requirements, the applicant submitted a revised individual driveway plan as a third option on 12/5/2025. So now. 2025. The individual driveway plan would remove the need for an emergency turnaround. Due to the plans being submitted recently, the fire marshal and engineer have not reviewed it. The planning board is advised to discuss this option. The planning board should discuss whether it feels the access easement is appropriate and should waive section 223.05, 3.02 F2 slope requirement, and if the separate individual driveway plan to negate the emergency turnaround is appropriate. The applicant should amend their plan to meet all lot areas requirements. Additionally, the planning board should discuss their view on a future code change to allow them to ability to waive the emergency turnaround requirement if local fire department, fire marshal, and engineer submit formal memos stating they believe a turnaround is not necessary for the safety of the lot and the local community. The third question was the board may wish to request a scenic easement after review of the revised access plan. No response was provided. The planning board's assessment, town code 220.1.07H regarding open space design standards for subdivision of land indicates that scenic easements along public roads should be provided by the applicant encompassing a recommended 10% requirement, though not required. Total depth of the subject parcel, 224.04 gives the planning board the power to waive this requirement. The planning board may choose to waive the requirement if exceptional conditions of terrain or other factors impose undue hardship or practical difficulty, or if public safety and general welfare were not being endangered by the lack of easements. The road frontage of the parcel has high slopes, more than 30% in the areas, more than 30% in large areas. A scenic easement reserved area, as recommended town code, would act as protection of these slopes from erosion and use of these areas. However, it should be noted there is lack of wooded areas along the road frontage, limited space in the lots, and little to no natural vegetation on the site. The planning board should discuss whether they feel it is necessary to acquire a scenic easement for the lots. The fourth planning board comment was the applicant should modify the building envelope on Lot 2 to avoid areas of steep slopes around the perimeter of the lot. Applicant's response was addressed, a revised map provided with new building envelopes. On the revised map provided, the planning board envelope of Lot 2 has shrunk to avoid high slope areas. The planning department recognizes high slope areas are within the building envelope, and these are unavoidable due to the nature of the lot. The planning department recommends no further changes to the building envelope are needed. The fifth planning board comment was the applicant should submit a revised map, removing the existing easement on the property pending confirmation it does not encumber the property as relates to this application. Applicant's response was addressed, revised maps provided without the existing easement, no easement provided. Planning board assessment, the revised map provided does not have the existing easement. Based on the discussion with the town attorney during the previous meeting, it was agreed the existing easement should be removed from the maps due to never being filed. No further action is needed. The application was referred to the Fire Marshal David Brown for review on November 21st, 2025. The planning department received a report saying the following comments. The proposed project is adjacent to or within 1,000 feet of public water and fire hydrants that provide adequate water supply for firefighting purposes. New York State Fire Code 511 2.2.2 turnaround are required when drivers are more than 500 feet in length. As this is not the case, it is not required by the fire code. The application was referred to the town consulting engineer for a review on November 14th, 2025. The planning department received a report stating the following comments. Due to the nature of the lot, the firefighting ability primarily comes from the South Ferncroft Place. As such, the town consulting engineers of the opinion an emergency turnaround is not necessary in the lot. A 20-foot wide easement should be included and written as a utility easement. Subdivision approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services Office of Wastewater Management is required. The boundaries of the proposed lots and the access easement area need to be fully described by bearings, distances with information annotated on the map. Condition to approval, the applicant should be required to file an urban renewal map modification to amend parcel 55 in map 1016. As discussed in March in the 19th, 2025 meeting, slopes more than 20% in the building area conflict with Town Code Section 221.08. At the time, large amounts of the building area were above this 20% area. After discussion, it was concluded that areas greater than 20% should be removed from the perimeter of the building envelope. The planning department agrees and supports this viewpoint. As instructed, the applicant followed this recommendation in the revised plans. However, it should be noted, Town Code Section 221.08 requires no urban renewal map or renewal modification. While not mentioned at the initial March 19, 2025 meeting, it is important to note this lot is within urban renewal map 1016. As such, an urban renewal map modification will need to be acquired from the town board. The urban renewal map modification will be made a condition of approval. We will work with the applicant on the modification process. In conclusion, the planning board should discuss if the scenic easement should be required, the potential code change regarding the emergency turnarounds, access to the lots, the individual driveway plan, and the revised common driveway plan. The planning department advises the applicant to submit revised additional plans and a response letter. That letter must respond to each item below, number by number, and identify how and where in the plans the comments are addressed. Any changes to the plan should be noted with signals, highlighted, text box, bubbles, callouts, different colors, etc. Please note only items deemed unnecessary by the planning board during the board's deliberation may be omitted. The questions for the planning board is,
Aaron, you don't need to read the questions for us, but thank you. That was very thorough. Thanks so much. Tara, you're up.
Vice Chair, folks, and members of the board. I'm Tara Burke from Lighthouse Land Planning. I'm here with Andy Hammer from Beyond Owen Hammer, and Drew Bennett is our engineer on this project. Aaron, thank you for your review. Appreciate it. This is the second time you guys have seen this one. And I think Aaron did a great job summarizing all of the issues. It's kind of ironic. It's on after the one that was just before. And then you have one on for your approval that also had a common driveway situation. So during our last review with you, you gave us the directive to go back and come back with a common driveway because of the location of the property, right? It's right on the corner of South Ferncroft and Westlake. Well, we did that, submitted that plan, one with the turnaround and one without, to the board. The one without the turnaround for the common driveway, which is the same as this is the third one we submitted, but it's the same driveway location. So the first plan we submitted was just the common driveway, which is 870 square feet of pavement. Then we submitted the second plan that was up earlier that Drew did that shows the 50-foot turnaround, which required an additional 1,115 square feet of paving, totaling 2,585 square feet of pavement on a like 20,000 square foot lots, right? So we were originally thinking, I went to the fire marshal's office, talked to the fire marshal. They were in agreement. There's no reason to have a emergency turnaround on this property. The fire code doesn't require it. The fire code only, or the state code only requires it if it's more than 300 feet from the road. And then I think for the fire code, it's 500. And in speaking with the fire marshal's office and, please confirm with them. I don't want to speak for them. But the main reason is because the whole intent is to get emergency vehicles up there to fight fires. The terminus of the common driveway is 60 feet from the road. So in all actuality, the fire trucks aren't going to be pulling up there. They're going to be pulling the hoses up the driveway. It's safer for everybody. So we were thinking, okay, great, let's come to the board and have a chat about this, because from a logical standpoint, who wants an additional, 17, 15 square foot of pavement on 20,000 square foot lots, where ironically, we're talking about a scenic easement to protect slopes, yet we're about to put 2,000 square feet of pavement right behind the protected slopes because there's no vegetation. We spoke with the planning department, looked through the code, section 220, of what the board has the authority to do and doesn't have the authority to do. As Deb Troron was saying earlier, you do have the ability to waive certain requirements of the subdivision section of the code. The one thing that you don't have the ability to waive is the common driveway turnaround. So every time there's a common driveway, there needs to be that 50-foot turnaround. Ironically, historically, I think the planning board never did the turnarounds for 2-lot subdivisions. I don't know if it was an oversight, but this seems to be something that's come up a lot recently. So we met with the planning department to just try to put our heads together on, like, what do we do about this? Because it kind of stinks for everybody. It's not necessarily, in our opinion, good planning. The town engineer is saying it's not needed. The fire marshal's office is saying it's not needed, but unfortunately the town code says it is needed. So now what? So we talked to the planning department. Planning department was in agreement that, you guys do a great job of reviewing these, and to give you some discretion in this situation, if all of the other agencies on board say it's not required, it would be great for you to have the ability to say, okay, it doesn't make sense in this situation. That requires a code change. So we're totally okay with that. We'll be there in support of that. We just don't know how long that's going to take. So that's frustrating for everybody, assuming that would be a direction you'd want to go in. So we then came up with the third plan, which is this one, which has 2 separate driveways. The one going across lot 1 to lot 2 would be an access easement for lot 2. That's using the existing curb cut. And then we propose the driveway for lot 1 to be right at the edge of lot 1, which is furthest into South Ferncroft. There's a driveway across the street. Ironically, the lot across the street is a single family residence that has a U driveway. So they have 2 curb cuts for 1 lot. We are trying to do what makes sense here. The additional, it just seems like 2,000 square feet of pavement just so that there's only 1 curb cut, where we could have another one. There's about 60 feet between the 2. There's no sight distance issues for the second driveway. If the code were ever changed to allow you the discretion, we would have, because of the access easement, we'd have the ability to come back and modify the subdivision to say, okay, fine, we'll, eliminate driveway number one. We just don't know when that's going to be. So, and then just to the comment earlier about lot area, because I know there was a comment in the memo where once you remove the common driveway and the turnaround, there's not enough lot area. There actually is. This one, we moved the lot line over. So lot 1 has 21,508 and lot 2 has 26,162 square feet on this plan. And that is, so that lot 1's now 20,000. If we were to put the common driveway on lot 2, that's only 1,500 and that lot's 2,600. So there is enough. I just wanted to clarify that for the record. We could of course submit that plan if you needed us to, if you go in the direction of the common driveway. But this is ultimately the plan that we think makes the most planning sense. I think it's just, it's a residential area and it's on top of a hill. It's going to look like a helicopter pad on top of this hill, and then we're like I heard Lou say last time, it's really important to save the steep slopes. There's a little bit of vegetation on the road, it would be nice to preserve that. But right above that is the helicopter pad. So that's kind of where we stand on, we're truly trying to do the thing that makes the most sense on this one. And I think this one is, I haven't followed the other ones super closely, but I've been in the audience when they've been on. Some of the differences are there's this existing driveway that we would do as the access easement. There are the slopes. We're on this curve. So I think there's a couple things that make, this lot unique in that respect. And those are really the two, I think, that's the main issue. And then the scenic easement comes after that. We haven't addressed that yet because the directive at the last review was let's sort out the access and then we'll talk about the easement. But I can't help but see the irony in the easement if, we need the large amount of paving. And then we have no issue with the engineer's comments. We can address all that. The urban renewal map modification, that's fine. All those sort of housekeeping things, we have no issue with. So,
Thanks, Tara.
yeah. Lou.
Yeah, Tara, thank you for a very clear, logical explanation of how we got to this point. And I think you've also stated indisputable argument for not putting a helicopter pad right in the middle of this. So yeah, I agree. I mean, there's really three choices. One of them is not allowed to put, and it's also not a good idea to have a turnaround there. So we're stuck with two other choices. One is to wait to get a code change, but I appreciate that you never know how long that's going to take. So we're left with one choice, the two separate driveways. And I'm in favor of that. And I would hope that if the code does change in the future, that we could modify the site plan and have one access point, one driveway for both lots, common driveway. So yeah, I agree with everything that you said. So I'm in favor of proceeding the way you suggested. I do want to make one last point about the scenic easement. I think 10% is not feasible, but I still think that it's important that we do have some kind of buffer there. If not for anything else, I mean, they're really steep slopes, so I think it's necessary for that in that regard. But it's also an aesthetic issue. As you're coming up Westlake Drive, it would look better if that was vegetated as with a scenic easement. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Lou. Ava, do you have any comments?
No, I do thank you, Tara, for the, articulate detail. I do agree, with all the other departments reaffirming that, that common driveway is not really necessary. And the uniqueness of this subdivision, the irony of the other subdivisions we have looked at and are looking at now are, front and back, making it a much longer parcel, which again, I think makes more sense with having the common driveway, whereas it's side by side, it's on a curve. So I think this proposal is the best option, makes the most sense, certainly.
Thank you. Michael?
I agree with the board and Tara, and where I live in Waynescott, I was just walking and looking, and every house has a U driveway. So mine doesn't, but they do.
Bruce?
Yeah, I would agree. Just Tara, one question. Why couldn't they share the entrance, and instead of going left to lot 2, you just bang a right and go to lot 1 instead of 2 curb cuts?
I think the slopes were part of the problem.
You're saying
right?
like,
Well, I don't think.
See.
Yeah, come off that way. Yeah,
Oh.
and then eliminate the the west curb cut.
You would still technically have a common driveway. I know what you're saying.
All right.
But yeah, under the way it's defined, it would still be a common driveway.
Okay.
I think it's if the one curb cut goes to 2 lots,
Then
that,
it's a
right, Eric? I think,
technically, yeah.
like Eric.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Tara. I agree. I think that ironically, this one is a case for two separate driveways. And thanks for addressing all the others. And I think we'll address the scenic easement once we get some revised.
Well,
We address
just on
that
that, I mean, this plan is, I don't know what we would revise.
Oh, okay.
Right? So we can go back and talk to the property owner about the scenic easement. I heard Lou say that he wants it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, so we'll go back and then we'll either, submit a memo saying they don't want to do it, or we'll submit a revised plan with that scenic easement on it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the scenic easement's only like 14 feet or something,
Yeah,
right?
it's not.
And then we just have to keep in mind that, with the scenic easement, then you have a 10-foot setback. They're not huge lots.
Yeah.
But Andrew, do you want to add?
Yeah, just one quick question. The scenic easement's largely along the road frontage. I think that's what Lou was talking about.
Yes. And I'm
There is
sorry,
an area in the
Would you
rear.
mind just saying?
I'm Richard A. Hammer. I'm Tara's assistant. I'm sort of like Vanna White tonight. But the area in the rear, would the board consider applying that towards the overall output? I mean, it's slopes in the back, and I think that was one of the concerns is vegetated slope. So I do think that's eligible for inclusion. I just don't know how much depth we can get off of the road
Off of the
frontage,
road
but I
'cause
think
of
that
the
might
slope.
be beneficial as well. It is visible from Westlake is my recollection when you drive by the
Yeah.
property.
The front yard setback, is 20 feet, right? So and then our lot line is here. I don't know how far back that is, but if we went like 10 feet ahead of the lot line, then our setback off the scenic easement would be the building envelope.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then we wouldn't.
Then you wouldn't
losing
have-
any depth
yeah.
On the lot, and you'd still be preserving the slopes.
And what about
Yeah.
inclusion?
So that might, I don't know, how does the board feel about like the scenic easement up until 10 feet before the building envelope? And we can, it doesn't have to be, like, the building envelope comes down here, right? Because it's here, and then it cuts down because there's no slopes here. But we could still, I think the vegetation.
And which way is the house going to be oriented? So if you're coming in off the driveway, would it be facing the driveway? That's not been decided yet, yeah. I'm just trying to think
To figure that out.
for vegetation, which would be the, I don't know how you guys feel,
I think
but
the idea is to create vegetation or to revegetate this sloped area. It doesn't have to be, the full 10% coming into.
Well, there's existing vegetation here, right? This is the clearing line. So this is all.
That's all vegetated
Vegetated
already,
right here.
yeah. So
So the
this,
scenic easement would protect that.
Yeah.
so basically, if you look, would you mind bringing up the aerial?
Yeah, just,
Because it looks like there's
Tie
a
it together,
driveway
right?
already
yeah.
cut there,
Okay,
and it is vegetated.
So the vegetation's here.
Yeah.
So that's what would be protected in the easement.
Yeah, you don't want those bare slopes there without any vegetation. So if we can protect that, that's what I'm looking for. With the scenic
In the
view.
center, like in here
Up
or
in here.
up here? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so the
road frontage side.
the road frontage side, that's where, yeah.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
We'll go back to our client and come back with a map with the scenic easement in the front.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you. And we shall move on to our questions. Number one, does the planning board wish to assume lead agency status for this project?
Yes.
Yes. Does the planning board agree to amend the slope requirement for the common driveway? Well,
We're gonna have to.
Worded a little incorrectly. Just saying that the driveway does exceed the otherwise recommended maximum slope. There's really no way getting around that, though, if it sounded like the board was okay with the last plan that was shown. So you would have to agree to waive the requirement to comply with the maximum slope.
Right.
yeah, so does the board agree to waive the requirement for avoiding the maximum slope?
Yeah, the maximum slope is 12%, and I
Right.
don't think they make that.
Excuse me.
They exceed that, so I'm in favor of waiving that.
Me too.
Do we know how much it is exceeded
Yes.
by?
It is. It's, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
35%.
35%?
35%, I think.
And it's the existing driveway.
Yeah.
That used to go to the residence that was there before.
It's a very steep, it's a steep
Yeah,
hill, but there's
okay.
no real,
There's really no other way.
Like a driveway in California?
Andy said it's 14%. I guess he just looked at the.
14%. Oh, okay. All right.
All right, okay, yes.
So yes, we do agree to waive the slope requirement for the driveways. Does the planning board believe individual driveways are appropriate?
We do now.
We do. Does the planning board believe the common driveway easement is appropriate? I'm not sure I understand this question.
Basically, the third plan that the applicants had offered that involves a single driveway, again, not worded the best, but basically what we're asking is it okay, that last map that you saw, where they're going to take an individual driveway for lot one, but then also have another one that goes across lot one to provide access to lot two, which will require an easement.
Ah, gotcha, access easement. Got it. I think, yes, we are okay with that. Does the planning board find that a scenic easement area on the subject parcel should be required? Yes. Does the planning board agree to waive requiring no areas on the building envelope to be greater than 20% slopes? Didn't that get moved?
Yeah, so.
Sorry.
In the middle of the building envelope on lot 2, there are like a couple little spots. It's on the survey. Yeah. See right in the middle of the building envelope?
yes,
But
okay.
during the last review, we talked about how it's a disturbed lot and the house, there was a house and it was torn down, and that's probably all construction and
Right,
really.
it's not natural.
Yeah, a natural feature is worthy of preservation. Right.
Okay.
So yes.
That's fine.
Does the planning board agree it is necessary to require an urban renewal map modification as a condition of approval? Yes. Does the planning board feel they should discuss a code change to allow the planning board to have the ability to waive an emergency driveway turnaround?
Yes.
You should
where-
wait on that until there is a specific code change that would be required to be brought in front of the board.
But do we,
But we're in favor.
we're in
of-
favor of it happening, so can we propose it?
To the town.
Can we send our
Separately.
comments to the town board?
You can. I think if and when there is a specific code change proposed, that's probably the time to opine on it.
But how will the code change get proposed if we
I
don't?
think the planning department's willing to put forth a code change.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
So
Okay,
yes, we're willing to.
so yes,
discuss.
we're willing to discuss it.
Anytime.
Thanks, everybody. All right, Jay Cucci, site plan. Will, this is yours. Lou, you're up again. Is the applicant here? Great.
Take it away, Will.
Whenever you're ready, Will.
Hit it, Will.
Okay, so this is a site plan application seeking approval for a fenced-in gravel-based facility for portable sanitary units, supplies, and vehicles on a site with a legally pre-existing non-conforming single-family residence. Additionally, the applicant has proposed to merge the subject parcel with the property to the direct north, known as 76 Queens Lane. The properties are situated on Queens Lane, clear of natural vegetation, and are contained within the South Fork Special Groundwater Protection Area. The applicant proposes adding a secondary use as a storage yard to the site, which is a permitted use in the commercial industrial zone, but not defined in the town code. Properties to the north are zoned commercial industrial and have industrial uses, and properties to the southeast are zones B residence and contain residences. Currently, the two lots are not merged, and the applicant states they will be merged if the board finds the proposal acceptable. This application was originally submitted in March 2020 and has been reviewed on 5 occasions since. By a resolution from August 5th, 2022, the zoning board granted the necessary relief for the property to contain 2 uses. After the board's last review on March 15th, 2023, it sent comments to the applicant about remaining issues. First, the board requested the applicant submit a site plan showing the extent of the proposed access easement. The applicant instead modified the application to include merging 74 and 76 Queens Lane, eliminating the need for an access easement. Second, the board requested the applicant submit a separate site plan for 76 Queens Lane. And the submitted site plan depicts both 74 and 76 Queens Lane, which the planning department finds acceptable. Third, the board contacted the building department to discuss whether a sanitary upgrade would be required. The building department stated the site would need a sanitary upgrade, and the submission proposes a new IAOWTS system on site. Fourth, the board requested the applicant label the substrate in the truck and sanitary unit storage areas, and the revised site plan shows the areas of gravel in the storage areas. At the last review in March 2023, the applicants proposed to keep 74 and 76 Queens Lane as single and separate properties, but provide access for 74 Queens Lane via an access easement on 76 Queens Lane. Now, the applicants are proposing to merge 74 and 76 Queens Lane, which eliminates the need for an access easement and a separate site plan for 76 Queens Lane. They are also proposing a 21-foot wide gate to control access into and out of 74 Queens Lane. The planning department and town engineer have reviewed the proposed configuration of lots and access and have no objections. The application was originally made due to a code violation for operating a commercial use on a residential property without site plan approval. The commercial use has been operating for over 18 years without the benefit of site plan approval and required a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals for the maximum number of uses on the site. 76 Queens Lane also received site plan approval in 1996 to function as a parking area for the storage of commercial trucks and personal vehicles, separate from any use pre-existing or proposed on 74 Queens Lane. Should the two lots be merged, the approved use on 76 Queens Lane would be added to the 2 existing uses on 74 Queens Lane. The board should consider whether the parking use on 76 Queens Lane will continue on the merged parcels. If the parking use will be part of the storage yard use already proposed for 74 Queens Lane and not a separate use or business, this would be accommodated by the variance already granted by the ZBA, as it would result in only 2 uses total for the site. However, if the merger would result in 3 uses on one commercially zoned property, another variance from the zoning board or a special permit for a multiple industrial complex may be required. The applicant should explain their plans for the area currently used as parking, and the board should discuss whether this use is appropriate or if it constitutes multiple uses. The town consulting engineer has reviewed the submitted materials and made no objection to merging the parcels. However, he noted 74 Queens Lane will be required to replace the existing sanitary system with a new IAOWTS system and remove the off-site dirt driveways. The engineer requested the applicant provide details for those improvements, including specifications for restoring the driveway areas. The site plan approval for 76 Queens Lane from 1996 included a condition requiring the applicant to protect existing vegetation, including maintaining 15 white pine trees along Queens Lane and 5 white pine trees along the southern property line for as long as the parking area exists. Contrary to that requirement, the southern property line has been cleared and would now be required to remain at least partially cleared for access. In the January 2023 submission, 20 white pine trees were added to the site plan to be planted on 76 Queens Lane property, along Queens Lane and on its southern border. At the time, the planning department recommended it was acceptable as it fulfilled the specific requirement of the original approval. The planning department notes no vegetation is shown on the most recent site plan and no landscaping plan has been submitted. The board should discuss whether the applicant should submit a landscaping plan to comply with the referenced condition of approval and provide additional buffers for the site plan. The planning department recommends a separate landscaping plan which matches the previously submitted and reviewed one should be provided. In conclusion, the applicant should explain the intended use of the paved and gravel areas on both lots, indicate the number of uses proposed, submit sanitary system plans, and dirt driveway removal specifications. The board should consider whether the applicant should submit a separate landscaping plan. That's it.
Thank you, Will. Does the applicant wish to be heard?
Yes. Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Richard Whalen from Whalen Filer, also Landmarks, on behalf of the applicant, Joseph Cucci, and Mr. Cucci is here tonight. So when this application has been around for a while, I think it goes back to 2020, and there have been gaps in terms of when we've been back in front of the board. I was actually surprised myself to see that we were last before the board in March of 2023. Kind of blew me away to see that. I went back and checked my calendar. Apparently that's true. But we have, in that period of time, we have interacted with the planning department during that period of time. And the main issue had been this question of an access easement, how to get to the property. Let me back up for those of you who don't go back far enough to remember when this began. So the application originally concerned only the southern lot, which is 74 Queens Lane. The applicant owns a business called Headquarters, which is a porta potty business, and he uses the site for storage only. There's no office on the property. There are no employees on the property. There is a residence on the southern lot, 74 Queens Lane, and a local family lives there, and the applicant has wanted to maintain that. That's actually where the variance came in, because an oddity of the code, which is something else you should change in the code, is that if you have a residence on a commercial industrial lot, and by the way, a residence is not even allowed use in the commercial industrial zone, but if it pre-exists zoning and you have a residence, then you're only allowed one use, which is the residence. So if you have a residence on a commercial industrial zone property, you need a variance to add a commercial use. That makes no sense. Well, so we applied, we didn't want to wait around for code change for reasons you just discussed. So we went to the zoning board. Naturally, the zoning board granted the variance, but that was the variance. The variance was to allow us to have a commercial use on the southern property, because the alternative would have been to remove a residence that's used by local residents. So the issue, though, was access. The access was always proposed to come in from the north because we don't want to go in beside the residence. And that got complicated. for various reasons, you would have to create an access easement over the northern parcel. And finally, what we decided is, you know what? It makes more sense just to merge the properties and create one property. Then you're accessing your own property directly from Queens Lane. You don't need an access easement. So I think the only real potentially significant issue here is the number of uses. The way we look at it, the uses are obviously single-family residence and storage yard. Okay, storage yard is, in my view, a fungible use. If you're familiar with the office use in the code, if you're a landlord, you've got a building, you've got office tenants, you could have any number of tenants. Office is a use, whether you have 2 offices, 4 offices, 6 offices, 6 different tenants, it's all considered office, one use. Storage use, as the planning department pointed out, is not actually defined in the code. So in my view, storage yard is a fungible use, and the use is storage yard. Right now, there are vehicles parked on the northern part of the property, which is currently 76 Queens Lane, and the storage for headquarters would be on the southern part of the property. But the overall use, as we see it, is storage yard and, of course, the residence. So by that count, there are only 2 uses and we have no issues. The other things the planning department has mentioned really don't pose any problem. We already have a design for first of all, we were told that we have to, as a result of the project, install a low nitrogen septic system. Mind you, we're not actually proposing any buildings. The low nitrogen would serve the existing residents, but went through the building department. The building department determined that we had to do that under the code, and we have a design for that. It wasn't provided to you yet, but it's been done. We have it on a survey. So that's very simple. We'll show where the low, we have a design and a location for the low nitrogen IA system. So we'll supply that. We should have, there was some confusion, I think, between the revisions to the site plan. Somehow the landscaping came off. Agreed, it needs to be on there. I would think we can probably do it on the site plan, show the location, the species, the number of, the height is planted and so on and so forth. There are some white pines currently on the property. I'm talking, really talking primarily 76 Queens Lane. That's the northern one. I think that's where the landscaping was proposed. So we would simply propose to show that on the site plan and with the necessary details. I guess what I just want back from the planning board is we had proposed 20 white pines. Again, there may be some there. I mean, I know there are some there. When the surveyor went out, I said, look, it's hard to count them because there's other stuff in the way. But I would like some feedback from the board as to what you'd like to see. If you say we want 20 overall white pines in that area, we'll show you 20 overall white pines. The other questions, the dirt driveways that transgress the property to the south, that property now has a house being built on it. Shown on there or not? Yeah, there's a house going up. It's been going up for the last several years. The owner of that property has recently put arborvitae along their back property line, so they've actually blocked access onto the dirt driveways. And it's on their land. So I don't really know. The bottom line is the neighboring owner over whose land the dirt driveways go has closed them off. We can't use them, blocked by arborvitae. I don't know that it's appropriate for us to then therefore plan to put land, grass seed or something, that we have to go on someone else's property to do it. Bottom line is the driveways won't be used. The neighbors close them off. I don't think we can do anything more about that. And the only thing I can remember besides that is the urban renewal map modification. So we're combining the lots. Right now, the urban renewal map shows 2 urban renewal lots. I will tell you what I did when I was the planning board attorney back in the day when we had urban renewal map modifications. Usually they were subdivisions. If the planning board was approving the thing that would change the map, like a subdivision, I would add a provision to the resolution saying the planning board recommends that the urban renewal map be modified in accordance with our approval. And we're not even doing a subdivision, we're combining the lots, the urban renewal map should be changed. But I would suggest that you can just do that in your resolution and then you can pass that on to the town board. They can hold the public hearing and amend the urban renewal map. Nobody's going to complain about combining the 2 lots. So I think I've covered everything unless you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lou?
Yeah, I think the big issue here is the 3 uses or 2 uses, however you define them, and whether you look at it as the storage including one type of product that's stored and another product that's stored, it's still one storage use? Or the storage on 76 is necessary for the use of that's being stored on 74. However you look at it, I tend to agree that it is one use. So if that's one use and the residence is the other use, you're still within the 2-use maximum. So I'm in agreement with looking at it that way. As far as the landscaping, there was a plan where all of Queens Lane was landscaped. I don't know how many trees is necessary, but the original plan showed that there was a line of trees that lined all of Queens Lane, as well as Dayton Avenue. But Dayton Avenue now has the gate, the access. Obviously, you're not going to plant trees there, but whatever the other part of it, you need to do that. The urban renewal map, I agree with you. That's just, whether it's a condition of approval or with some other method, I don't think that's an issue that's going to cause any problems. I think you didn't mention the stormwater runoff calculations, because now it's a merged, you have merged lots. So the calculations need to account for the entirety of the 2 lots, that's all. And also the existing conditions. The plans need to be updated for the fencing and other structures that are not shown on the proposed survey. And I think that's the dirt driveway removal. You mentioned that you have no authority to deal with that. So I understand that. So that takes care of that issue. That's it.
Thanks, Lou. Ava?
Yeah, I don't really have much to comment on, with regards to the vegetation. I would say just pointing back to that original, what's cited here in the plan approval from 96. Just says, landscaping shall be maintained by the applicant for so long as the parking area approved by the resolution continues to exist. It cites 20. So
Yeah.
if you need a number, I would say there's your number.
Thank you. Michael?
So I'm slightly confused about the 3 uses. So it would be 3 uses, different items were stored on the storage area. Is that what that means?
Can I put something out? Along Springs Fireplace Road, there are at least 2 properties that I know of, I think probably 3, which have multiple tenants on them. People who have small businesses, usually small contractors or landscapers, and they store their vehicles and other machinery or equipment on these properties. Sometimes there may be 20 or more tenants in there. The town has never raised, and in fact, the town has encouraged, at least in one Atlanta I know of, encouraged them to accommodate people, because otherwise those people were taking their vehicles back to their houses, usually up in Springs, and parking them in their front yard. So you might have multiple tenants on the property, storing their property, not running the business off the property, but storing their stuff. And the town has heretofore basically said it's 1 year storage, so it's okay. So that's all we're proposing to do.
I'm fine with that. I was just perplexed by the notion that if it's 3 uses, the uses would be simply items you store on the property. So odd in my mind, but I agree with 2 uses.
Yeah, no, I agree with everybody, and landscaping, I think, is probably a good idea as well, so.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, everybody. I agree with my colleagues. I do agree it's 2 uses. All right, questions? Should the applicant explain the intended use of the paved and gravel areas on both lots? I think we verbally just did. I think that's.
Yep.
Does the board agree the planned use for the area currently used as parking is appropriate, or does it constitute another use?
Former.
It's appropriate. Should the applicant provide details and specifications for the new IAOWTS system and removal of off-site dirt driveways? You've covered both of those in your comments, so
Yes.
you'll provide that, and the off-site driveways are not your responsibility.
And I would just add, I understand what Rick said, but sorry, voice from the sky. But there is a notation on the site plan that says existing dirt driveways to be removed. Since those are on not on this property, just that notation should be corrected or removed.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, that notation should be removed. And should the applicant submit a revised landscaping? Oh, wait, whoops, I skipped one. Should the board choose to grant its approval, does it agree the applicant should be required to update the urban renewal map as a condition of approval? Yes. And should the applicant submit a revised landscaping plan?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks, Mr. Whalen. Thanks, Mr. Pucci. Seacrest Pool and Shed Site Plan. Lou, that's you.
This isn't for
Chris Decker, this is Chris,
easy
but
one.
Will, I believe you're covering for Chris?
I was gonna cover it for
Covering
Chris.
for Gotcha.
And
It's the
just let me.
applicant here.
Yeah,
Yes.
Lori.
Lori's here, okay.
Okay, hopefully the board can see the aerial
Yep.
Yes.
of the property. Okay, so this is a sort of a brief update and just a possible change to process. Following the board's last review in November, the board decided that the application was complete and ready for referral to the ZBA and the ARB. Since then, the applicant submitted a letter to request that the planning board move forward by issuing a resolution of approval so that the project can obtain a building permit for phase 1, which does not require a natural resources special permit. The planning department finds this acceptable, and the approval would be conditioned so that an NRSP would be required to obtain a building permit for phase 2. Would be required to obtain a building permit for phase 2, excuse me. The applicant is reminded that the fire marshal will require the existing bathrooms in the pool house to be made compliant with the ADA if the new clubhouse building is not completed within 1 year of the completion of phase 1. We would also note, though, with regard to ARB approval, that is something that is normally done after the planning board application is complete. So basically, the planning board had said at the last review that the applicant should go off to the ZBA to get an NRSP and the ARB. ARB is usually handled after the planning board application is complete, and there is no requirement that the applicant obtain an NRSP before getting an approval from the planning board. In fact, it's somewhat common to have that be a condition of approval if you grant it, that they get an NRSP, and that's not required for phase 1. So we have no objection to the application moving forward and being scheduled for a public hearing, knowing that if the board does grant approval, both ARB approval and obtaining an NRSP would be conditions of the planning board's approval.
Thanks, Eric.
Lori Wiltshire for Land Planning Services. Eric, we are going to get ARB on phase 1.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure of that. Thank you.
Do you wish to make any other comments, Lori? Okay, that's it.
Yeah, there's really not much to say here. It's a procedural move. This is phase 1. I'm in agreement with approving it, moving it forward with the conditions that Eric cited. So there's not much else to say.
Excellent. Anybody else?
Nope.
Agreed. What I would like to do is have you read the resolution to schedule the public
Sure.
hearing since we're on it already. Script. We have script.
Okay, so
Here's the script.
I got the script. There's all kinds of scripts going on.
So before we do that, let me just read the question, so it's on the record. Does the planning board agree the application is complete and ready to schedule for a public hearing?
Aye.
Yes.
All in favor?
So am I just reading the resolution or am I reading the public hearing notice?
No, you're reading, it's actually the scheduled public hearing.
Public hearing.
It's a different one.
Oh,
It's
geez.
the
So
who,
there's
what.
3 things here?
So if you
It's
read,
not this?
It's the resolution to
No,
schedule a
that's-
public, No, that's,
That's for when there actually is a public hearing happening. This is to schedule the public hearing.
So you were right, Ava. Okay. A public hearing is hereby scheduled to be held at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on January 28, 2026, at 6:30 PM, or as soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of Seacrest Pool and Shed Site Plan, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-110-1-12, at premises identified on the Suffolk County Tax Map, as I just read. I'll read it again. Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-110-1-12. Thank you very much for your attention to this matter.
Is it the 26th or the 28th?
28.
Okay, good.
Did I say 26? Sorry.
28th, 2026. Can I get a motion to schedule this public
I'll make
hearing?
that motion.
Bruce makes the
I'll
motion.
second it.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Excellent. Next, Surf Club,
So smooth.
so smooth. No kinks to work out here. Surf Club 4-phased site plan.
Okay.
Bruce,
Yes.
I can't believe it's someone different.
Lou, you
Yeah,
want to do this
Lou,
one?
you want to do this one anyway?
Lou's got the next one.
Okay.
Lou does have the next one.
I'll before you do the resolution, I'll just give the overview of the memo. This one's even more simple, but same idea, ready to be scheduled for a public hearing. However, in this case, the project required a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. In those situations, the applicant must obtain the variance before being deemed complete by the planning board, because otherwise the application isn't compliant with the town code. Not the same for an NRSP as with the last application. So these applicants did go to the ZBA and did obtain the necessary relief. Therefore, the application is complete and ready to be scheduled for a public hearing.
Thank you, Eric. Bruce, Lori, do you wish to be heard? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is super simple as well, so.
Can you read the?
All right, let's see if I can try to figure this out here.
Can you? Will you?
Okay. Public hearing is hereby scheduled to be held at Town Hall, 159 Panago Road, East Hampton, on January 28th, 2026 at 6:30 PM, or soon thereafter as this matter may be heard, to consider the application of Surf Club 4-phase site plan at premises identified on the Suffolk County Tax Map as parcel Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-49-6-21. Files can be viewed and comments can be filed in accordance with the specifics on the public hearing notice, which appears as part of the meeting record tonight and will be published in the paper of record no less than 10 days before the said hearing. And I think that's it.
That's it. Can I get a motion for its approval, for scheduling?
I'll make that motion.
Bruce?
I will second.
Ava will second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for putting the resolutions on the same night as the discussion.
You're welcome. Thank you. You too, Lori.
Cheers.
Take care. All righty. Soleil East Beach Restaurant Site Plan. I see the applicant is here, and Eric, you're going to take this one?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so an application has been made seeking approval for a proposed restaurant with rooftop deck and parking on a site located on the southwest corner of South Embassy Street and South Emerson Ave in downtown Montauk. The site is 100% cleared of naturally occurring vegetation and is 0.187 acres in size. The site is located within the resort zoning district and is surrounded by parcels of similar use, but also central business zoning. The restaurant is proposed to be used seasonally and would be adjacent to the Soleil East Beach Motel. The applicants indicate that the restaurant will have 14 bar stools at the lower level and 13 table seats on the rooftop deck for patrons to utilize. The applicants are proposing 12 total parking spaces, sidewalks on all sides of the building for foot traffic, and a new sanitary system to the rear under the parking at the alleyway. I will switch over to the site plan now, and hopefully you can see that. I'll zoom in a little bit here. This project is a type 2 action under SECRA, meaning that no further review for SECRA purposes is required. As the subject property is located within the resort zoning district, the proposed, quote, seasonal restaurant, as indicated in the application, use would require a special permit. Although the restaurant may be used in a seasonal nature, there is no distinction in the code for a seasonal restaurant, and thus the use is classified as a restaurant simply. The applicant should provide the intended hours of operation for the site. The applicant should confirm the proposed restaurant use will operate in compliance with the town code definition of a restaurant. Since a special permit is required, the application will ultimately need to demonstrate that it can meet the general and specific special permit standards in the town code. The location of this property in the resort zoning district indicates a requirement for a 30-foot front yard setback, 15-foot side yard setbacks, and 15-foot rear setbacks. The proposed restaurant is on a corner, so the proposed principal restaurant must meet the 30-foot setback on two sides. The proposed structure appears to be dimensionally conforming, with the building meeting all required setbacks. The building coverage is 1,222 square feet, while the allowable is 1,222.75 square feet, or 15% of the lot area, so they're right up on it. The proposed total lot coverage is 4,886 square feet, whereas the allowable is over 6,000 square feet, or 75% of the lot area, so they're well below that. The proposed building is proposed to be just over 14 feet in height, which includes the 42-inch railing at the top of it, which falls well below the 30-foot maximum for a flat roof in the zoning district. So basically, as designed, as you see on the site plan, it appears to meet all dimensional regulations. With regard to parking requirements and site navigation, the town code parking requirements list the number of spaces required for a restaurant as 1 per 3 permanent seats, or 1 per each person of rated capacity, plus 1 employee per shift, 1 per employee per shift. The applicant has proposed 27 seats total, 14 of which are bar stools and 13 of which are table seats on the rooftop. According to the parking calculations, 2 employees are anticipated. With these numbers, 11 spaces, including an ADA space, would be required. However, the board should discuss the intended nature of operation with the applicants, as 2 employees seems low to be a reasonable estimate. 12 spaces are currently provided and are proposed to meet the town code at 9 feet by 20 feet. Spaces 1 through 5 are accessible via the alley to the north of the property, and spaces 6 through 12 are situated head-in along South Embassy Street. As per the town code, all aisles within parking areas shall have a minimum width of 24 feet when the parking spaces are at a 90-degree angle to that aisle. The alley to the north of the site is only 20 feet wide, which does not conform to the 24-foot requirement. Accordingly, a 2-foot wide alley widening easement from the properties on each side of the alleyway is typically required, and should be required in this case. And I should say, too, I don't think it's likely that there's a redevelopment of the property to the north, so it may be most prudent to require the applicants to provide a 4-foot, a 2-foot alley widening easement, but a further setback of 4 feet from the edge of the alley for the parking spaces in order to meet that 24 feet. Another issue is that the applicants will need to clarify how traffic will flow through the alley. If I switch just quickly to the aerial photograph, you can see the alley to the rear of the site, and you can see that it's mostly unobstructed, but it appears to be partially obstructed for some of the length. It's not improved with asphalt, so the applicants will need to provide details of how they plan to improve the alleyway, but also looking at the site plan, there's a question there. As you can imagine, if somebody pulls into the alleyway, if spaces 1 through 5 are occupied, what do they do when they get to the end of that alleyway? How do they turn around? Are they intended to proceed through the entire length of the alley? The applicant will need to clarify the circulation pattern. No truck loading spaces required. None has been provided. The parking layout and site layout is consistent with other parcels in the area. It should be noted, however, that town code and good planning practices to put parking behind structures. Again, this is a corner lot. That may not be possible, but that is guidance from the town code. While the current proposal is conforming with the town code, another option is for parking spaces 6 through 12 to be pulled into the right-of-way, as this would match the existing parking configuration on the lot to the north. If the spaces were pulled into the right-of-way, an additional parking space may be able to fit along the alley on the corner of the lot nearest South Embassy Street. For the spaces to be pulled into the right-of-way, a parking area variance from the ZBA and Highway Department approval would be needed. Basically, because this would be taking those parking spaces off of the actual subject property and putting them in the right-of-way. Site access should be considered in this case. If parking spots were located within the right-of-way, then vehicles would back out directly into South Embassy Street. The board should discuss if this alternative parking configuration is preferred. And I'm going to just jump back quickly to the aerial to show you, it's kind of an illustration of what we're talking about. So right now, the way that the parking spaces along South Embassy are situated, they're entirely within the property. So as you see this blue line here, they would be to the right of it as it's drawn right now. Obviously, that leaves this big space that is now grass in between those parking spaces and South Embassy Street. That would need to be improved with asphalt so that people could access those parking spaces on the actual property. So under the current design, you would have a lot of asphalt between that of South Embassy, that backup lane that would be the shoulder of the road, and then the parking spaces on the subject property. So an alternative design, which has been done in other areas of downtown Montauk, is if you look, for example, to the lot to the immediate north across the alleyway, you'll see that to the west of that property boundary, there is head-in parking spaces and asphalt that is within the right-of-way. It's not on the subject property. The building is right up to the subject property there. So there's an existing development pattern of having the parking spaces be within the right-of-way and not on the subject property. An option would be to continue that pattern further south for this property. However, again, switching back to the site plan, that's not the way it's been drawn. The benefit of the way that it's drawn is that it's compliant with the code. All of their parking is on site. However, if the board did want to allow the applicants to move that parking into the right-of-way, it would necessitate a variance. Obviously, the planning board would send comments to the ZBA in support of that if it favored that design. But that is something to consider at the outset here.
Why do they object to that?
So with regard to water supply, sanitary systems, and stormwater, the applicants must receive approval from the health department for the proposed low nitrogen system. In groundwater management zone 4, which they're in, the allowable sanitary flow is 600 gallons per acre. Thus, the otherwise allowable flow on the property would be about 112 gallons per day. However, all pre-existing lots in downtown Montauk are grandfathered at 300 gallons per day. So that is their effective permitted yield on the property. And we note that the sanitary system is proposed to be under the parking that is at the situated at the alleyway as it's currently shown. Also in the sanitary calculations, it appears that the calculation for an outdoor or seasonal bar was utilized for some of the seating. The applicant should clarify if the second floor outdoor seating is intended to be used as a seasonal bar. Comments regarding water, the sanitary system, and stormwater are pending engineer review. I should mention, too, the standard calculation of the health department is 10 gallons per day per seat for a restaurant. The applicants are proposing 27 seats. So that would be 270 gallons per day. They're grandfathered at 300 gallons per day. I don't think there's an issue here with them not meeting the sanitary yield, but the details of the calculation don't appear to match what the health department would otherwise require. We could be wrong on that if the applicants can submit proof that the health department would look at it differently. So the fire marshal had several comments. Most of these relate to interior features. According to the comments, each toilet, bathing room, and associated water closet compartment should be accessible, handicapped accessible. The exception to this is where multiple single-use toilets or bathing rooms are clustered at a single location. Not less than one room for each use at each cluster shall be accessible. Each water closet utilized by the public or employees shall have a separate compartment with walls or partitions and a door enclosing the fixtures to ensure privacy. However, water closet compartments are not required in a single occupant toilet room with a lockable door. An employee in public toilet rooms, the required lavatory should be located in the same room as the required water closet or in an adjacent room connected by openings without doors. One of the current toilet room locations is prohibited, as toilet rooms shall not open directly into a room used for the preparation of food. There should also be separate facilities provided for each sex, with the exception that single-user toilet and bathing rooms shall be designated as gender neutral. The toilet and water closets are currently non-compliant as per the fire marshal. The fire marshal noted also that the maximum occupancy for the first floor would be 41 and 75 for the rooftop deck, totaling 115 and requiring a minimum of 2 ADA bathrooms or toilet rooms is a sort of neutral term the fire marshal's using. The fire marshal notes that there are certain provisions for allowing lifts, but a lift is not acceptable for this application for the second story. A lighting plan was submitted by the applicants, including a photometric plan, which indicates minimum light spill over property lines from the proposed lighting fixtures. The board policy requires lighting for sites not spill outside of property lines. However, if the planning board determines the spill is minimal, the board may choose to permit such lighting. It does not appear that the proposed lighting and subsequent light spill would impact any neighboring properties. Again, this is a commercial area. There's a lot of lighting on neighboring properties in the area. The greatest area of light spill is at the corner of South Embassy Street and South Emerson Avenue. The planning department recommends the applicant comply with the policy and provide for no light spill. The applicant should also submit light fixture specifications for, sheets for each of the fixtures proposed. We don't have that. And it appears that the chosen fixtures meet the town code as far as color temperature. The applicant has submitted a landscaping plan as part of their site plan, which includes Montauk daisies, bayberry, shad, winterberry, and ostrich and sweet fern. The landscaping plan adequately shows limits of clearing, the location of vegetation and structural screening, and a key shows each plant species, their common and scientific names, the quantity of plants, heights of plants, and spacing, which are all things that we require. The applicant is encouraged to use native vegetation wherever possible, but generally speaking, the landscaping plan is found acceptable, and all the details are compliant with the normal elements that the board would require. The applicant is advised that additional approvals for this project will be required. These include the ARB, the Office of Fire Prevention as a referral, sign off, and the Health Department. Approval from the ZBA may also be necessary, really pending the board's discussion regarding the parking layout. Upon subsequent submissions, the applicant shall comply with the required items in section 255-650 of the town code. A review of the missing elements has been performed and is detailed in the memorandum prepared by the planning department. I'm not going to go through all of the code requirements. I'll just list some of the necessary elements that are missing or comments about them. So first, the site plan submitted shows property line, directional bearings and distancing, adjacent land ownership, streets, intersections, directional arrow, scale, and zoning district, which is the first requirement. I'll confine this to the things that need to be added to the plan, not where they're compliant. So the applicant should clarify the proposed finished first floor elevation or ground elevation of each building and structure. The site plan submitted depicts dimensions of property line setbacks, but does not label dimensions between buildings and structures. That's a code requirement that the applicant should provide in an updated plan. The applicant should submit a revised site plan depicting the intended circulation pattern for the alley. This can be a separate plan or on the site plan. Probably a separate plan would be clearer. Any changes regarding drainage structures and drainage calculations are also pending engineer review. So with regard to the lighting plan, the applicant should confirm light spill outside of the property lines is minimized or remove it entirely. The board should discuss whether or not the lighting plan is acceptable. And the applicant should submit manufacturer specification sheets for the light fixtures. The applicant should also clarify if any grading is proposed for the site. The site is relatively flat, but no information was provided regarding that. That's basically it as far as the missing elements of the site plan. So in conclusion, there are a few items that must be confirmed and clarified prior to proceeding. The applicant should provide more detail regarding the use, clarify the number of employees expected, clarify parking areas and circulation, confirm light spill has been minimized, amend the landscaping plan if required, provide the finished floor elevations, and submit dimensions between proposed buildings and structures. Other comments may be provided pending engineer review, and I should mention that separately, that the engineer has not had a chance to review this yet. Those comments are pending. And that's a summary of the department's comments.
Thank you, Eric. Tara?
Good evening again. Tara Burke from Lighthouse Land Planning, and I'm here with Drew Bennett, who is the engineer on the project. Thank you, Eric. So this is a vacant lot, downtown Montauk, which we don't see that much anymore. I feel like back when I was in the planning department, these came in more. So it was kind of cool to get sort of a blank canvas. We are proposing a seasonal restaurant. It's a one-story restaurant with a rooftop area for eating. There's tables up there. The planning department asked us to clarify the intended hours of operation. This is primarily, we envision as being a restaurant that is ancillary to the hotel next door. It's owned by the same owners, which is why on the site design, we have the sidewalk that comes right along the adjacent property line. We anticipate it being breakfast, lunch, dinner. A lot of foot traffic, hopefully, from the area as well, but sort of like a beach shack kind of, you know, high quality, but like nothing fancy sort of thing. We read the definition of a restaurant. That is exactly what we're envisioning. As far as the site design, we actually met with the planning department about this. Just because it is a corner lot, and just to kind of go through how, you know, how there used to be a formula for sort of how these downtown Montauk lots were done. They just haven't come in for so long. So it's kind of like a, you know, refresh our memory. This is what we're thinking. Is this what you guys are envisioning as far as the parking layout goes? So I guess I'll start with the number of parking spaces, since that's first in the memo. The planning department notes the number of seats and the required parking, and then made a comment about the 2 employees. And perhaps that not being enough. We did go back and speak with the property owners, and I think it is more realistic if we 4 employees is what they envisioned for their business model. So we'll resubmit that. Now, with the number of spaces we've shown, that would be a requirement of 13 spaces, and we have 12 on the plan. So what we could do is put another space right here, right, or really anywhere along South Emerson. Now, I understand that that might not be something the board might want to see. I know South Emerson is a busy road. So historically, the way parking has been done, and Eric kind of touched on this with the pulling the spaces out into the right of way. We have to show you that we can fit the spaces on site. For our use, right? Otherwise, our use doesn't work. You know, we just can't fit it on the property. So typically what's happened in the past is we show you that we can fit the 12 or 13 spaces on site dimensionally. And then if it's in the interest of good planning to pull them into the alley, we would get your blessing to do that, right? We're obviously not going to go to the zoning board for a variance for parking if you don't agree with it, because they wouldn't grant it. And if you can't fit the spaces on site, then you use fees in lieu of parking, right? And that I think is, gosh, I haven't done it in so long, but I think it's like 9,000 a space now, maybe. I don't think it's been updated, but that's been the avenue if you can't fit the parking. So, for example, or if you can't improve it in the right of way, I should say, right? So if we're showing you that we can fit our 13 spaces, or let's just say the 12, just because it kind of separates. If we could show you that we can fit our 12, and you say, yeah, we think spaces 6 through 12 make more sense in the right of way, then we would ask you to send a memo to the zoning board in favor of that. And then we go to the zoning board for our variance, which we'd have to get before you approve the application. Now, space 13, let's say, for example, let's say we show it on South Emerson, and you decide we don't want a space that is either parallel or backing out onto South Emerson or whatever, then we could apply for fees in lieu of parking for that space. Right. So then we could have one space for fees in lieu of parking and, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for a variance. So that's kind of the framework of what I understand. And Eric, please correct me if I'm wrong, or if things have changed since. So when we met with planning, we said, okay, yeah, we can fit the spaces on site, but hey, let's take a look at the aerials and see what makes sense. Like Eric said, if their spaces are on the property, there's a huge amount of paving behind them. Are people going to double park to go to the beach? Or, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but it kind of creates a little bit of like a question zone. And do you want that much parking? Maybe it'll look prettier to have those spaces pulled into the right of way, and then we can put additional landscaping there. Trying to think of there's quite a few sites in Montauk where they've been pulled into the right of way. Oh, you guys know, we did Beckman together, right? I think that was in the right of way. Anyway.
And even the other restaurant at the old.
Yeah, exactly. So that was sort of our thought, was when you look at the aerial, the property to the north has the spaces in the right of way. So this might look a little staggered and confusing to have all that pavement, but I'll let you guys discuss that. So that's sort of the parking start. Now, as far as the alley goes, because we do have those 5 spaces that we proposed on the alley. The alley is open all the way through, which you can see mostly on the aerial. And I actually did a couple of site plans further down. So I remember that it's clear the whole way through. So as far as circulation goes, I think the question was if they're backing out of a space or if they're driving in and all 5 of those are taken, what do? Well, they just keep going through the alley. We're happy to provide the 2-foot road widening easement. That's standard. This is the first time I've ever heard of, well, maybe we'll have you do 4 feet since there's a building on the north. We can work through that with the planning department and the engineer. I just think we just have to have more discussion about it. If it's required and the only way to have the parking there, then we'll have to do it. But like to have some further discussion with them on that. And then as far as what was the next thing? Oh, and the sanitary calculations. They bring up the seasonal bar. The bar is not upstairs. Upstairs is seating. There's a dumbwaiter that brings the food up. There's a 14-seat bar downstairs. The floor plans that you have show the tables upstairs and the bar downstairs. There's food service upstairs. There's no bar. So we don't anticipate that area to be a designated bar. And we use that seasonal bar calculation for the bar downstairs because it's a seasonal bar, and that's a health department. The health department and the town code labels don't match exactly, but that's the use that part of these we're proposing downstairs. So that's why we use that calculation. And the health department, we have to get our food service permit every year. They won't issue it. So we're regulated by, the use that we have approved with them, as well as the use approved with you. The lighting, I think the lighting is pretty negligible, the spill going over into the road right away, but it's a really easy fix. It's 0.1 foot candles. And as Eric said, it's a pretty well-lit area. But it's literally a matter of moving some of the light fixtures by like an inch or 2, which we're, happy to do. And the landscaping is all native except for the Montauk daisies, which is in line with what Montauk looks like. I think it's part of our charm. And then as far as like the submission requirements go that the planning department listed, some of those were already shown on the plans. The finished floor elevation is there. As far as the dimensional setbacks between the buildings, there's only one building, so I'm not sure what else we would dimension. The color temperature of the light fixtures is on the plan. And then the spot elevations of the grading is also on the plan. It's just pretty flat, so it's easy to overlook those numbers. And that's it.
Thanks, Tara.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I've got some questions and / concerns. A lot of the questions you've already touched on your answers, so sorry if I'm going to reiterate these points, but I just have my list. So the first item I had was the intended hours of operation, and you went over that. It's a restaurant, it's ancillary to the hotel, ancillary to the hotel. So the concern I had there is that it's not going to become the typical concern, that it's not going to become a gathering spot, nightclub, that type of thing.
Yeah, that's certainly not the intention.
The 2 employees per shift, which you now say is 4 employees per shift. I've never run a restaurant, but I've been in a lot of restaurants. It just seems to me even 4 employees per shift seems low. I mean, if you have 2 people in the kitchen and 2 servers, there's 4 right there. And that just doesn't seem as though that would be able to service the type of restaurant that you've described. So that's a concern I had.
Yeah, I mean, we talked to the owner about it. They run solely East Restaurant. They envisioned, like you said, 2 in the kitchen, and then there's 1 person downstairs and 1 person upstairs. It's really small. So there's not a lot of need for a lot of staff. And the reason we didn't initially include it in the parking, just to add, was they own the hotel next door. Most of the staff lives in the hotel next door, or they ride bikes or e-bikes from other hotels in downtown Montauk that are staff housing. So we're going to have a bike rack there. But I spoke to them about it. They don't anticipate more than 4 staff members being necessary.
Yeah, because that's going to affect the parking. And with regard to the parking, and we'll start with the alleyway. So the alleyway, you said you're amenable to making it 24-foot wide, which is the requirement.
Yeah, I mean, I said we would go back and talk to the planning department. I've never heard of the 2 feet that are required of the neighbor on the other side being put on this side, but that doesn't mean that it's not true. So we'll certainly go talk to them about it.
And the circulation plan, there is no need for circulation plan because you say that you can go straight through the alleyway and go out the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I'm in favor of, as far as the parking is concerned, of pulling the spaces into the right of way. And also, if you do that, you can add a space, like
we'll get 1 more. Yeah.
in the alleyway. So I'm in favor of that plan. I'm not going to go over all the fire marshal requirements with regard to the toilet rooms and the privacy of water.
Oh yeah, we'll address all that. We have no problem fixing that.
I am concerned, even though it's minor, but I'm still concerned with any light spill, especially in downtown Montauk. I would like to see native vegetation wherever vegetation is to occur. As far as the sanitary system, I was curious as to why the rooftop seating is treated differently for kitchen flow than the Drew's nodding his head. I think he wants to answer. Yeah, because that doesn't make sense to me. What's the difference between whether you're dining on the rooftop or in the enclosed area downstairs.
Good evening, Drew Bennett on behalf of the applicant. So the sanitary code requires us to develop design flows, and design flows in the Suffolk County Sanitary Code are based on use types. It's very similar to the town parking calculations where you try to fit it within the best definition, but in this case, it fits pretty well. So the rooftop is obviously a seasonal restaurant. There's not much dining service in the winter on top of the roof. And the bar is on the first level, and that's clearly a bar. There is no bar or bar service on the rooftop. And so we're able to divide the two spaces into those two different types of uses, which are in the design standards, and I can apply a flow rate for each of those types of uses.
So I'm just trying to figure obviously I believe you that that's the way it's stated within the Suffolk County Health Department, but I'm trying to understand the rationale. So are they saying that it's different, less gallons per day because it's seasonal? So you don't have the full year's use?
Yeah, there's a different.
But even that doesn't make sense, because how does that affect the gallons per day unless they take the whole year and then average? So I guess that's what they do.
So the designs, that's a whole nother subject of conversation. So 20 years ago, we used to debate with the health department, like, how do you know this is really the appropriate design flow rate? And the long story short is that they don't want to debate it anymore. They've set their standards and they sort of want to stick to those numbers. They don't want to review the design standards for every single application. And so we haven't applied to the health department yet. We think we have a pretty solid set of plans right now. Your comments are very helpful. We'll apply to them. We'll get their comments. We'll work through this.
And last thing, with regard to the sanitary and the type of use, would you be amenable to having a covenant limiting the intensity of use?
That's not for me to decide. I'll leave that up to the owner and Tara. Maybe you want to explain that a little bit more.
What that means.
Well, it would be more comfortable for me if there was a covenant attesting what you described the restaurant will be like, that you will adhere to that description that you described.
Well, but if you're approving a restaurant, we have to, I'm not saying we're not amenable to it. I think it just, I think your resolution, when you say what use is approved, that's what we're held to. I mean, if we could submit a covenant saying we agree to the definition of a restaurant in the town code. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. You're making perfect sense. My concern is that sometimes a use is approved like a restaurant, but then it melds into something else.
And that's where ordinance comes into play, right? I mean, I think you just approve, or you have one on tonight for a resolution, and you could probably say the same thing. I think at least, but any restaurant that's approved, I would think that's a concern. But that's where, the ordinance, that's why you have an ordinance department and downtown Montauk, everyone's looking at each other and they're going to call the second something isn't what it's supposed to be, just like ditch planes. But I hear your concern, so I'm not trying to minimize it. It's just, I think there are avenues in place to address those concerns.
Okay. That's it. Those are all my points.
Thanks, Lou. Ava?
Tara, I think we did have a recent approval for a downtown Montauk restaurant earlier in the fall, I think it was. And correct me if I'm wrong, maybe, I don't know if anyone recalls it. I should, because it was my application. But I believe the applicant did submit a narrative that was put as part of the
Yeah, we could do
record.
that.
And that kind of speaks to, Lou, I think maybe what you're getting at. It's just something that was added into the record with full detail of what the intended use and operation
Yeah, we
is.
can do that. That's no problem.
And I also agree with the parking. I think the parking makes much more sense in that right of way. 1000%.
Michael?
You don't want to have cars on South Emerson? Because I
Well,
look
it's not that we don't. I mean, it's just a really busy street.
Super busy
So,
summer.
I mean, if we were, I mean, you know,
If I go on Google Maps and go down South Emerson, I do see some parking as on Emerson. I mean, I don't know when this was done, but because I'm concerned about the alley, and like you said, you can just go straight, but you got to go like how you define a block in Montauk. You have to go all the way through to turn. Is that road?
I mean, just historically, the planning board has always wanted on-site parking in the rear, where you take access from the alleys. And then we usually would do variances or to put it in the right of way. We just thought that one was the one you were going to want more than anything, because that's historically how it's been done, especially since this alley's open, right? There's a couple alleys that are obstructed where it's impossible.
Okay. I'm just.
I mean, we're
thinking of
certainly
those
okay
folks
with
who-
putting parking on South Emerson. We just didn't think you were going to want it.
I'm just thinking of the folks who go down that alley and they're like, oh, where am I going now?
It's not that far. And I know specifically that alley is pretty wide. I actually thought it was a street for a while.
And more than likely, that'll be the staff parking for spaces 1 through 4 there, you know?
That makes sense. But it is a pretty wide alley. And I will say South Emerson gets so, it gets so busy in the summertime.
There's also a lot of
people walking.
pedestrians.
Exactly.
Because
People
that's
biking and
the
hiking
ocean's
because
right
it's
there.
the ocean. It gets really crazy.
That's all I got.
Bruce?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think pulling the parking into the right of way is a great idea. That gets you an extra spot along the alleyway. I think that gets you to almost to be where you need to be. The lighting is an easy fix, so doesn't seem to be a problem. That's it.
Great, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Sarah. I agree with everybody here. I think the parking in the right of way. I do think with the easement, the alley is probably a better place for the parking rather than South Emerson. And they've got a great spot there for a rooftop restaurant, I have to say.
Well, that's kind of what we were thinking. It's like there's nowhere in
Yeah,
downtown Montauk
You
to
can
sit
see the
outside
ocean.
near the ocean and eat.
yeah.
So that's exactly what we were thinking. And just to add to your sort of Michael's point about the South Emerson, we are going to need one additional space 14.
Oh, right.
Or 13, I think it is. Yeah, because we'll be putting it, if we pull it off, well, I'll talk to Eric about how we have to do that, because I think we can show it on site. Eric, do you know, I think we can show it on site on the South Emerson side, and then once we pull it off, we put it in the alley, and then we've met our parking. Do you know what I mean?
Why don't you just add it down here?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can, where space 5 is, you could add probably a few spaces there.
Okay, yeah, we'll sort it all out. Thank you.
Fire hydrant.
Yeah, I know, right? We don't have to relocate the fire hydrant.
And Michael, I think this is still winter because the pools don't look all open. Okay. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other comments, any additional comments? So we'll move on to our questions. Does the board find the general site layout acceptable, including the location of buildings, parking, and green spaces?
Yes.
Yes, I think we discussed all that. Does the board agree with the parking layout along South Embassy Street with parking spaces situated on the subject parcel, or would the board prefer to see the spaces situated within the right of way?
Right of way.
Should the applicants clarify the number of employees anticipated and amend the parking calculations accordingly?
Yes.
I think you have, and you will. Should the applicant minimize light spill outside the property lines and submit lighting specification sheets? Yes, please. Should the applicant provide ground floor elevations? Yes.
They've already done
I
it.
thought that
I think they might have already provided
Yeah.
them. That might be an error on our part.
should the applicant submit a revised plan detailing the proposed parking circulation pattern specifically in the alley? I think you may as well just lay it out and maybe talk to them about having that be specified staff parking.
Okay.
I think you missed number 6.
Number 6. Oh, wait, was there a 6?
Yeah, there was about distance between buildings and structures. I can clarify that. I mean, right now it's only really a dumpster in the building, but it might not be necessary. But we'll check the revised plan to make sure that the elements are there. But I was just going to say about the alleyway. Just a reminder: the town engineer has not reviewed this yet. And I'm almost positive they're going to ask for paving details for the alleyway, at least up to the boundary of the property.
Okay.
Makes sense.
That does make sense. Does the board find the landscaping plan acceptable?
Yes.
Can I ask one question? Are Montauk daisies really non-native?
They're not, yeah, as far as I know. Maybe I'll have like 5 landscapers call me tomorrow, but I don't think they are.
I know. I have them all over the
They're
place.
the only thing
They're so pretty.
on the landscaping plan that is a native.
Okay.
Do you want to add
The narrative, right?
including the narrative as well?
Including the narrative. Thank you. Yes. Does the board agree that the applicant should provide a narrative for the use of the restaurant and the hours?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Drew. Okay, next up is accessory dwelling units, proposed code changes. You're up, Eric.
Okay, so the planning board has discussed this before. The town board is looking to amend some of the regulations related to ADUs, including allowing them to be eligible for the rental registry and second homeowners to be able to own them. The planning board recently reviewed those changes, sent a letter of support to the town board. Included in those changes was a change to the minimum lot area requirement for detached and attached ADUs. So since the planning board reviewed it and sent comments to the town board held a public hearing. But the town board has further discussed the requirement regarding the minimum lot area and wants to change it from what the planning board last reviewed. So it's required to come back to you for comments on this new change. And specifically, right now under the town code, the effective minimum lot area requirement for both attached and detached ADUs is 20,000 square feet. The previous proposal was to keep it 20,000 square feet for detached ADUs, but reduce it to 15,000 square feet for ADUs that are attached to the principal residence. Now the town board has decided that they feel that it's acceptable to make that be 15,000 square feet for both attached and detached ADUs. So this is being brought back to you just to consider that change to the proposed code changes. Planning department obviously has no objection to it. The board should discuss it and determine if you want to send comments to the town board.
Thank you, Eric. I think that's reasonable. It doesn't seem to make sense to have 2 separate lot area requirements for attached versus detached. Seems to make sense to me.
I
And we
support
discussed-
this.
Yeah, I think it's just
Agree
only
with that.
enhancing
I
more
hope
availability.
I hope it encourages more folks to take advantage of this. I know you get 20 per school district or hamlet.
Is it 20 per school district, Eric?
20?
40. It was just recently up to 40.
Double, right? Yeah.
It's 40. Well, I live in Wainscott, and no one in Wainscott has done this.
So
I'm not sure why, but
You could be the first.
I'm trying.
Spearhead it, Michael.
yeah, there
Yes,
you go.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
model.
Eric, I have a question. Is the ADU restricted by GFA?
Well,
The house and an ADU both go into the GFA calculation as one unit?
yes. I mean, there's sort of a short answer. If it's detached, obviously it's not part of the gross floor area of the residence, but those are limited to 600 square feet.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
If it's attached, there's a calculation. It counts towards GFA, and there's also a calculation of the maximum size that it's allowed to be.
Got it. Okay.
So short answer, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's make it 800 square feet.
Any,
Eric.
yeah. Any additional comments? I'm in favor as well.
Nope.
Does the board have any comments for the town board regarding the proposed changes to the town code to promote additional ADUs? I think we're in favor.
In favor.
Of this change.
Tax break.
Okay, all right. On to the regular meeting. We've done the two scheduled public hearings. There's just one sub-waiver resolution of approval. In the matter of the application of McDonald Griffin Minor Subdivision, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-39-16-19. I have read this resolution and I move for its adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor. Okay, there's one road improvement unit thing here. And it is for Suffolk County Tax Map Number 381-1-1.5, which is located at number 6, 16th Street in Springs. And it is for road improvement units in the amount of, I need my glasses, $24,000. It's a 5-foot road widening, well, that's the easement, and the work includes survey, road, and drainage for 2nd Street for 520 linear feet, sub-base preparation, et cetera, for a total of 4,800 units, total of $24,000. I have read this resolution and move for its adoption.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before we move on to the adoption of the minutes, I just want to say that tonight is Michael Hansen's last meeting with us. How long have you been on the board?
4 years.
So I've been on for 2 years, and I just want to say thank you for being such a wonderful person to work with, and I wish you the best in your new role as town clerk.
Thank you very much.
I'll second that.
And I think Michael has,
Yes, it's my 4th year, and I feel like I've earned a college degree in planning board, and I want to thank all my professors on the board, as well as the planning department. And I want to mention the folks who I have worked on who used to be on the board, and they are Sharon McCobb, Randy Parsons, Ian Calder Piedmont, and Sam Kramer. And the planners that used to be I used when I first started were Marco Wu, Will Highland, and Dan Gross, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, and the attorney Nancy Marshall, all good folks. Oh, and the former director, Jeremy Samuelson. All good folks, and you guys are a great team, and I have the fullest confidence in the planning board and planning department. So thank you very much.
thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. You've been a great colleague, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the clerk's office. Minutes.
Reed's not here.
Reed's not here to keep us honest. I briefly looked them over. They look good. Can I have a resolution to adopt them as written?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Michael, would you do the honors?
What do you say now?
A motion.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Close the meeting? I make a motion to adjourn.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.